This one eyeshadow look makes beginners look like pros. And of course, I'm going to teach you exactly how to do it. It is actually so easy and so quick when you get the hang of it. And don't worry, I've taught hundreds, if not thousands of people online and in person how to do this exact eye look. You will be safe here. I know eyeshadow can be so intimidating, so let's get into it and I'll give you all the tips and tricks and the exact steps. First step, we're going to prime our eyes with some concealer. If you know you have oily eyelids, definitely invest into a proper eyeshadow primer that's going to control those oils. Personally, if you're not struggling with your eyeshadows to last, you don't really need to do it and you probably already have a concealer in your collection. And the best part about using concealer is that it's going to cancel out any redness or discoloration on your eyelids. And that means your eyeshadows are going to look better and of course last longer. This is the Hourglass Vanish Concealer and is super full coverage, so you only need a little bit. And then using a beauty blender, I'm just going to blend it all out and make sure you do put some concealer in that inner corner because that's actually where a lot of darkness comes from. You may have noticed that I'm not really wearing any other makeup and that actually is on purpose. I do recommend you doing eyeshadow before the rest of your makeup simply because if you get any fallout from any of the eyeshadow I show you later, you can easily wipe it away. As you can see, we now have a blank canvas and I'm going to grab some loose translucent powder with a tiny little brush, picking up the product, and I'm going to set my eyelid straight away. If you do notice you get little creases in your eyelid, which is totally natural from putting concealer on top and your eyelid folding over, you just want to tap it out before you set it because whatever you set, it will stay like that. And then I'm going to set with that loose translucent powder, and this is going to control any oils on the eyelids, also prevent that concealer from creasing, and also mean that when we put on the eyeshadows later, it blends more easily and effortlessly. I'm going to use this new Morphe Flickering Eyes eyeshadow palette because it's super easy, super neutral, and super wearable. But the best part about this eye look is that you can use any color you want. If you want to do a blue smoky eye, you can do that. If you want to do a matte eye, you can do that. You can customize this to anything you want. I'm going to teach you the principles so you can replicate this exact technique for any occasion. The first step is always the same. I'm going to grab a big fluffy eyeshadow brush and I'm going to take a light brown color. Like I said, you can do any color you want, but you do want it to be light. As I film this tutorial, I am going to be looking down into my mirror in my eyeshadow palette, but for my hooded eye gals and boys, this is what I recommend for you. I would hold my eyeshadow palette up to my eye level. This is because if you're applying and blending your eyeshadows and you're always looking down this way, you will find that when you look straight at someone, there'll be no eyeshadow to be seen. I don't really have hooded eyes, but I'll give you a quick example. Holding the mirror down where my chin is, blending, blending, blending. Oh, I'm putting the shade in my crease, which we'll get to. And then I look directly at you, there's not a lot of color to be seen. Whereas if we did that exact technique, which I'm going to teach you the proper technique, looking forward into a mirror, you'll be able to see it. So I will hold my mirror at eye level, but just off the side of the camera so it's not too distracting. And I'm going to grab that big fluffy brush with that light brown shade and we're going to start in the crease. If you haven't worked it out because I just said it, this is the crease of your eyelid where your eyes are folding over. I personally think it's best to start in the crease of the eyes, and this is how I start all eyeshadow looks. So I want to grab that big fluffy brush, put it in the crease, and I always start on the outside, and that is simply because we've just dipped into the eyeshadow. So that means this first bit that we go on to is going to be the most pigmented. So I'm going into the fold of my eye on the outside, and all I'm going to do is windshield wiper motions going back and forth. You definitely want the majority of the color on this outer area, not inside here. And that's just to keep the eyes open and lifted. So windshield wiper motions, if you feel like you need to add more color, again, add some more color, dip into your color, but start on the outside. And because of the brush we're using and the technique we're using, you will see that your eyeshadows will just naturally blend really beautifully. And also, as I'm looking at you, you can actually see the eyeshadow, whereas compared to before, you couldn't really. Obviously, everyone has different eye shapes and preferences, but I do like to just keep on blending. And I like to blend up a little bit because I don't like too much space in between my crease and my eyebrow. I like a soft transition. So I'm just staying in that crease, blending, but feel free to go a tiny bit higher with a very soft hand. You will notice how I'm holding my brush is quite far away from the bristles. And again, that is not by mistake. If you are looking for more pigment or more precision of like a less kind of blended look, you do want to hold it closer to those bristles. But right now we are looking for a soft diffused look with this technique, so I am holding it kind of far away and just going back and forth windshield wiper motions. And as you can see, I have lined up the eyeshadow pretty much to the outer corner of my eye. Again, that's not another mistake. Obviously, I just kind of blended to where my crease, I guess, fold ends, but I don't want to bring it any further than that because it will make my eyes look downturned. I know some people like that effect, but personally, I think a majority of eye shapes, a more upturned, open eye looks better. But if you like that look, it's makeup, it's really not that deep, you can do you. Also to add, if I ever feel like that outer corner just isn't looking quite right, what I do is I grab the same brush and all I like to do is little circles and I almost like to bring it out to the temples of my eye. This is probably a little bit technical, I would say, for a beginner, but you can always give it a go. Like I said, it's makeup, it's not that deep. You can wash it off. So I'm just doing little circular motions just to blend out that outer corner so it's not as harsh. And again, it gives that lifted effect. Next step is using the same brush, the same color. All I'm going to do is pop some color in the outer V, which I'll show you exactly where it is right now. So the outer corner of your eye is literally this outer corner right here where I'm mapping out right now. I would say it's where the color of your eye ends, and then you kind of want to map a V into your crease. So this area right here. What I'm going to do is with the same exact color, same exact brush, we are going to add some of that same tone exactly in that outer V that I showed you. And the way I'm doing this is I'm just doing little tapping motions currently. And as you can see, I didn't even notice I was doing this, but I am grabbing the brush a lot closer to where those bristles are because I want more precision. So we are tapping. You can do like slightly like, I guess, blending motions, but I don't want the color again to really go past this point of my eye. And if you haven't noticed this, I am holding the mirror down low now because I want to get visibility of my lid space, and that's an easy way to do it. Even if you have hooded eyes, like I said, I recommended holding it to eye level with that first crease color, but from now on, you don't really need to do that. So we are just placing the color in that outer V. Like I said, you can do little blending motions kind of up and down just to add color here. If you need to add more color, add some more, and your eyeshadow should be looking something like this as your first step. If this is all you want to do, if it's an everyday look or you're not a big eyeshadow wearer, you can stop here, but we're going to continue to make it a little bit more dramatic. Now grabbing a smaller, more dense brush, but still something with a little bit of fluff to help blend everything out. We are going to grab a slightly deeper color. Like I said, you could be choosing a darker blue at this moment, but I'm just going to choose a darker brown. I did just think of a good tip. You don't have to, but I definitely would recommend these colors to be matte. Again, makeup has no rules, but it's kind of just a traditional makeup rule that someone has made along the way. And I think it's just easy and it works well. I like to think of the next steps kind of filling in the lines. Like think of this as a coloring book. These are the lines that we do not want to go past. This is the last thing that should be transitioning to nothing. So keep that in mind with the next two steps that I'm going to show you. We practically want to repeat the first step, but using more precision, darker shade, and a smaller eyeshadow brush. So we've grabbed that dark brown and I'm going to go directly into my crease. You can see I'm holding my brush a little bit closer than the first time we did this. And I'm going to start on the outer V like I did before. And I'm just going to go back and forth. And because we've already added that first shade, this should easily blend into each other. That's why if you were to do, say, like a blue smoky eye, like I said, you want to start off with a light blue and then you can go into a darker blue. So just going back and forth, helping it blend. Like I said, you don't want too much here, otherwise it can get a little bit dark. And you can see the colors have blended well into each other, but I don't feel like they're as blended as they should be. So what I can do is grab that first brush that we used, that light brown shade, grab it again and just repeat that first step, mainly on that outer V, just to buff out any harshness and also just make it look more seamless. So that's what we look like looking directly into your eyes. And then you probably guessed it, we're going to do the same step that we did with the other color, using this brush and the darker brown, adding this to the outer V. So I'm just going to pat this color on top of what we have already done. And why I like adding a darker color in this outer V is, like I said before, it kind of elongates and opens up your eyes. And you do really want to make sure that you are getting to that lash line. This is what we're looking like looking at you, and I will look down so you can see the placement. You might have noticed I have not added any eyeshadow in that first third kind of half point into my eye. Again, we are going for an easy eye look that is going to suit most eye shapes. Again, elongate, open up the eyes, but I've also left that space so we can add a little bit of shimmer. But if you were listening at the start, which I hope you were, you definitely don't have to. Like I said, you could leave it like this. You could go in and add a matte shade and do the exact same technique, but I do want to add a shimmer because I like shimmer and I think it's fun and it's good for you guys to learn. Technically, you could do this next step with an eyeshadow brush, something like this or something like this if you want more control. Personally, I am going to use the tools my mama gave me, my hands, and more specifically, my ring finger. I think especially for shimmers, this is the easiest way to apply them, and also you always have them on hand, pardon the pun. So I'm going to go in with this shimmery color, using my ring finger, just giving it a good swirl. And the best part about using your hands is they have like a natural warmth, so glitters really stick onto it and makes it super easy to apply, like I just said. Whereas brushes, you might find that you need like a setting spray to really like get the adhesion and make it stick. I'm going to look down into my mirror so I can get a good look of where I want to place this and my eyelid. So as I told you, there is nothing from this inner corner to here. So that's where exactly you want to apply it. But I will say we do want to kind of go up to where our crease level is and lightly blend it up. I will show you and I'll hold your hand like I have been this whole way. So with my ring finger, I'm going to start in the inner to center of my eye and I'm doing little tapping motions. And as I mentioned before, it's the same as using a brush. Where you go first is where the most of the pigment's going to go. So going there and then I'm tapping inwards, making sure I go to the inner corner of my eye. And as we can see, it doesn't look its best. It is not blended. We have put it technically where we want it, but I do want to blend those edges just to make sure it blends into the other colors seamlessly. How I'm going to do that is I'm not going to pick up any more color. As you can see, I still have some on my finger and I'm just going to lightly tap and blend out those shimmer colors into where we've put those matte colors in kind of that outer V. Obviously, we don't want this in the outer V, but we do want the colors to kind of mesh and touch each other, like overlay a little bit is probably the best way to explain it. So blending and same thing up to the crease level. I like my glitters going a little bit over my crease so when I am looking at someone, they can see it. Again, another great tip for hooded eyes. If you want your glitters to be seen, you should be holding your mirror at eye level so you can see what other people are going to see when you talk to them. I did just grab a little bit more eyeshadow because I felt like I needed it, but I'm just going to tap into where that crease color is, kind of just lightly tapping and not using as much eyeshadow as I did at first because I don't want too much pigment up in the crease. And honestly, I'm really happy with that. That is how it looks blended out when I look down. If you want to add eyeliner, if you're a pro and I underestimated your skills, you can go and do that, but I'm going to leave it exactly how it is. But I will add a little bit of eyeshadow underneath the eye. Again, not for everyone, but you can just grab that first brush you used with that first color, grab that same eyeshadow brush we used at first with the same first color, and I'm going to go where the lashes are starting to come out of my eye, again starting on the outside, and I'm just going to go back and forth. You might want to look up for this, and you can bring this all the way from the outer corner to the inner corner, and just going back and forth to lightly blend. I personally love eyeshadow underneath my eyes. I feel like it just makes everything look super cohesive. If you are looking for more precision, say if you don't feel like you have enough space underneath your eyes or that's just too much eyeshadow, you can use a smaller eyeshadow brush, but I will use this just to add a little bit more darkness and smoky. It's honestly repeating what we did on the top and the crease, just underneath the eyes. So just grabbing a little bit of dark brown, same technique, but I am going to concentrate mainly on that outer corner and just making sure that that outer corner of the top eyeshadow and the bottom is joining. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side because I haven't done it. And if you find yourself pulling the ugliest faces when you're doing this, that is perfectly normal. And then your last step is just to add some mascara. My tip for mascara is use your mirror underneath your chin so you can really get to the base. And also just wiggle around your brush a little bit for a little bit more volume. And that's definitely a must if you have hooded eyes, because if you do mascara looking forward and you have hooded eyes, you're just going to get mascara all over your eyelids and ruin your beautiful eyeshadow. And there you have it, your beautiful eyeshadow look that honestly is practically 3 steps and so easy that I know you'll be able to nail. I honestly think the eye that we did together turned out better than the eye that I did by myself. And if you feel like you have any eyeshadow on your face, you can use some micellar water and just wash it away. Do your foundation, do whatever you're going to do, but I can guarantee you will get so many compliments with this eye look. And when you've practiced it a few times, you'll be able to do it in less than 5 minutes. This eyeshadow tutorial is giving very OG YouTuber, so please let me know if you did enjoy it. Very in-depth, very slow paced, just teaching you the fundamentals so you can feel confident with your eyeshadow. So if you did like it, or if you have any questions, please make sure that you subscribe and ask them down below, and I'll see you in the next one.